Montalvo from Montalvo International, and welcome to another episode of Women In. I have a really special treat for you, a dear cousin, dear friend that I'm going to be talking with today. Stay tuned for an incredible episode of Women In. Montalvo from Montalvo International, and we're so excited for Women In, just all around advocate, writer, author. I am just really excited to get a chance to interview my dear cousin, Keisha Lynne Ellis. She is an incredible person who has written just this wonderful book, The People's Constitution. I'm so looking forward to chatting with her about just her inspiration for it, who she is, and I just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of our episode of Women In on Montalvo International. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you. Thank you for all those wonderful words and for even thinking that, this is something as special as you think.
It's easy. Of course it's special. Of course. I mean, how could I not be honored to be able to interview my famous cousin? It's great.
Oh,
it's
famous.
really great. So, I mean, just really diving into it, I've always been amazed by all the things that you do. You're an artist, you're a mother, you are just an advocate. You really just have an insight into people's needs on the ground level, and I've always just admired all the work that you've done, but I really want you to tell other people about who you are. I know who you are in terms of growing up, but I think sometimes it's good to hear from your direct mouth, how would you describe yourself so the audience can know who you are?
Wow. I'm not sure. I guess the first thing, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. In addition to that, I'm a teacher. I write. I have a master's degree in international political economy.
So you're Superwoman, basically.
Not quite, not quite. So I lecture part-time at the University of the Bahamas in political science.
Okay.
In addition to that, I work for a nonprofit organization here in Nassau in the Bahamas, Hands for Hunger, where we rescue surplus food and we distribute that to people in need in the Bahamas.
Wow.
And in my spare time, I'm a writer.
So you basically do it all, is what you're saying.
Not quite.
So we're all going to live up to, hopefully, your standard at some point. But I mean, you have such a well-rounded way about you, and that is something that's always just drawn me into just watching how you've grown and what you do and your advocacy and just your viewpoint of political science and how countries develop, especially developing countries and Caribbean islands and things like that. And I think it really speaks volumes to why you wrote this book.
Yeah.
And I think that there are so many people who need a piece of that. I think for any constitution, but just really understanding this background history. But I mean, I think it would be great if you could just tell us a little bit about what is the People's Constitution really about? What inspired you? How did you come to this point? Maybe just so we can have a little snapshot about, what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I have a hard time saying that I wrote it,
Okay.
right? Because it's the Constitution.
Right.
It was written by, people
Right.
long before me. But what I did was I interpreted it in a different way. And I
Yeah.
think that's what people don't realize. That's what lawyers do.
Right,
That's
right,
why lawyers
right.
are paid the big bucks. They read the law and then they find a way to interpret it to
Right.
best suit their clients.
Yeah.
Right? And lawyers, they go to special schools, and they spend all this time trying to develop these skills to
Right.
help them interpret these laws, right? But when it comes to the Constitution, the guiding principles of our nation, right? The rule book that kind of keeps everyone in check. Right? I don't think that that's something that should just be in the hands of judges and lawyers, people who have the time, the money, the energy right, to go to law school. I think that everyone should be able to just pick up the Constitution at any time and access it, and see what it says. Right? So that's why I thought it was important to make it accessible to everyone. And that's a phrase I've been playing around with. Intellectual access to information. So in days before, it was about physical access. It was about physically being able to go to school, physically having books, right? And we've made a lot of strides in that area. There are schools, right? There are teachers, right? For the most part, but there's still that intellectual access where, okay, you have access to these books, you have the internet, but are you still able to grasp the information that you're getting? And I thought it was really important for people to have ownership over this and to know, hey, this doesn't belong to the politicians or the judges or the lawyers or people smarter than me or people richer than me. It belongs to every single person in this country. And I wanted every single person in this country to be able to just pick up the Constitution anytime they had a question and have their question answered.
Wow. I mean, and just the level of insight to be able to recognize that and be able to provide a way for people to get that. I mean, I think that speaks volumes to who you are as an individual. Like, you're able to really take apart what we need as a society and even individually and really put that into the hands. So, I mean, I really don't think there are many people who look at the Constitution at all in that way.
Right.
We see it as just this historical document, no matter what country you live in, as this thing that was written that maybe you might have a grasp of it, maybe you learned how to memorize something in school, but you don't really understand how this governs everything that you do.
Exactly.
And so to find a way to say, you know what, I also have an opportunity to play my part in history and be able to give, as you mentioned, intellectual access. And I think that's such a great way of coining it to those who need that. And I don't know if you can pick apart a little bit of where you feel people have been shortchanged on the intellectual access piece and how you feel like having a piece of this document will help get them towards, I don't know, gaining some footing and propelling themselves into saying, you know what, I can be a part of developing my Constitution, my history, and even my future.
Right. And that's I guess you really got to the root of the philosophical kind of issue behind this for me, right? Because I want people, if we say that we live in a democracy, it's important that everyone feels like they have a voice. You know, we understand a democracy is, oh yeah, I get to go out and vote, but that really doesn't mean much. Like, literally voting is literally the least you can do in a democracy, right? The real work is what you do outside of elections, you know? So I think that that's important. I wanted people to say, wait, this information belongs to me, you know, and even when I thought about translating it or interpreting it into layman's terms, I'm like, wait, am I allowed to do that? That was my first question. I'm like, is that illegal? She's like, should I? Right? And I actually asked around, and everyone said, well, no, I don't see why not. But, you know, I thought that, wait, maybe it doesn't belong to us. Maybe it is this sacred document up there on some, you know, mountain that no one's allowed to touch. But then I realized that, no, in actuality, it does belong to everyone. So, you know, I have a right to interpret it and share it, as well as, you know, any other person.
Right. And I guess, I mean, it seems so novel and innovative, but why do you think no one's ever done this before? I mean, besides you just being uniquely special, what do you think has kept people from understanding that this is something that needs to be done?
I don't know. I think it's the distance that we put between ourselves and the people in power. You know, even though we say we live in a democracy, you know, we got rid of the queen. And, you know, all that. It's almost like we don't actually believe it. You know, we still put politicians in this position of power. You know, we kind of still have this hierarchy that we pretend that we don't. But even if it doesn't actually exist, it exists in our minds. You know, so you know, these are all the kinds of things that I want to get people thinking about. You know, even if you don't, I don't expect anyone to memorize this book. Right? I expect you to say, hey, I have a question. Is that in the Constitution? And to be able to pick this up and have that question answered easily. That's great. And I think that really is going to give people one step towards making decisions that they can be more informed in. And I think it's, you made such a good point that, you know, we often chalk up our big democratic right is to vote and that's it, and then we close our books and we say, well, we'll wait till the next 4 years or 8 years or whatever you need to do. But there's an active process in all of that, and I think being able to create that step for people to say, you know what, I really do need to be an advocate for myself in a lot of ways, that, I mean, I think that really speaks volumes to that. And I guess for yourself, being in political science and even just the things that you've really studied in the background of development and things like that, where do you feel like the Bahamas specifically is right now, and where would you like to see it go, especially in the context of thinking about people needing this intellectual access to progress or move forward in what they're doing? It's a hard question.
I know, I'm sure I just, $1 million question, Keisha for Prime Minister, right?
Because there's so much involved in that, you know? I guess politically speaking, if I had to maybe find something that encompasses everything, you know, I would like to see us being more open-minded in the way we view our place in the world, you know, the way we view each other. And in addition to open-minded, I would say, you know, I would like us to find our place, you know, find our place as individuals, right, as well as find our place as a small nation in a big world, you know, because we're constantly finding ourselves torn between, oh, well, you know, we're an independent nation, we need to do things the way we need to do it, but also, hey, we live on this planet together.
Right.
You know, no one should try to go it alone
Right.
anymore in this day and age. So I think it's just a matter of us coming together and working together and really seeing the potential that we have here.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's very tempting to look north or, you know, look east for answers to our problems and, you know, consideration and all of that. But I'd really like to see us looking within ourselves a lot more and
Right.
really seeing, like finding the potential that we have here
Right.
and using that to really make the change
Right.
that we all want to see.
Right. And so I guess speaking of that potential, what do you think, I mean, in your opinion, would be one major strength that the Bahamian people might have in terms of, one, contributing to themselves, and even two, contributing to the general society, the world? Where do you think the Bahamas could really capitalize in terms of where the world is developing or how it's developing?
I think that one thing the Bahamas really has going for it, I mean, I guess in terms of course we can talk economics, you know, you have sun and you have the ocean, we have, you know, our ocean is just rich with resources, marine
I agree
life
completely.
and all of that stuff. But I think that, you know, I think that our voice, you know, and our voice is something that we've kind of muffled. You know, traditionally speaking, right after independence, we quickly became a tourist destination. Even before independence, we were a tourist destination. Right? So we were very much about, hey, look at us. This is us in our fancy dress. Look at us, ain't we pretty?
Right.
You know? But now I would like for us to now say, well, listen to what we have to say. We have this to say. Yes, we're nice to look at, but we also have something to say.
Interesting.
And I would really like to see more of that coming from us, from our politicians, from our leaders, from our people. All of that. I want to see our artists, even, you know, our artists kind of have this habit of, you know, when they create art, creating it in a touristy kind of sense. You know, making a song, but being sure to have that little jig in it so that the tourists like it. You know? So I would like to see us perhaps being more authentic in everything that we do, you know? And it's not so much now about trying to be as pretty as we can be so that tourists like us. But, you know, just being real. This is what we have to say. Not all of it is perfect, not all of it is nice, you know, but it's real.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to anyone in general. I mean, I feel like, yes, I am listening to you. You were saying exactly what I need to, and I think that plays into identity in general. And we've had some past videos in thinking about identity and identity crises, and I realized that that can boil down to an individual level, but also on a societal level, a national level, and things like that. And I think that really defines a lot of how we move forward in terms of what we do. Maybe, you know, in the Bahamian sense, it's been this kind of identity crisis of where to fit and how to do that. And so, like you're saying, using that platform that you've had to open the door to the general public, but now saying, let's flip the script a little bit and take advantage of kind of all eyes on us and using it for a different venue and a different way to say there is more to us, there's more depth to us in how we do things. And not to say that there's never been depth, but kind of really capitalizing on that depth in some way. So with thinking about coming and really sitting down and writing this book and interpreting the Constitution, that's not a light task at all. I mean, what was, I guess I could boil it down, what is one challenge that you had in really putting this together? Because I can't even imagine taking the Constitution, let alone putting it into terms that feel simple enough for the everyday person to really grasp. Like talk a little bit about that, I guess.
I mean, I think that this project was really good for me because it really taught me the benefit of just doing it. Honestly. Because this, I write creative work as well, right? That's hard in a different way. Right? This was just an exercise in, you know, just sticking with it. You know, because it's not something I didn't have to come up with the universal human rights. I didn't have to come up with that part. That was already there. So all I had to do was just kind of take it from that phrasing into this phrasing. Right? So it wasn't difficult, but it was absolutely tedious. You know, so it was just saying, hey, you know what, one line at a time, one page at a time, and just get to it. You know, so I think that it was really good because it showed me, hey, the only way you're going to get things done is if you do it. And I think that was the hardest part, and that's something that I think everyone struggles with. You know, the actual doing of it. So with this, it was just a matter of just taking the phrasing and changing it over. And you know, it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't that exciting, but it was so important. You know, I just kept reminding myself of how important it was. And I don't It wasn't difficult per se, but it just took mental space,
right?
You know, and it's difficult to find that time to carve out, you know, mental space to just get it done.
As you're saving the world and being a mother and everything else and lecturing, etc. So, I mean, I think I commend you for even putting it together, for taking that time, because it takes a lot to, one, say this is a necessity, and two, like you said, go from an idea to an action. And I'm really excited to see where it may go. And I guess for yourself, where do you want this to go? How do you want this to be used? If you had one big dream for the People's Constitution, what is it that you want to see happen with it?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know. First of all, I want everyone's copy to look like mine does.
Well worn. Mine is brand new, so clearly I haven't been referencing enough.
But I just want people, honestly, I want people to, you know, it's not about this book. It's about the information that's in it.
Right.
And honestly, the ownership of it.
Right.
I don't want people to say, oh, the Constitution is that thing that those people over there use.
Right.
I want them to say, hey, wait, no, the Constitution is, no, that's mine too.
Right.
Right. And I have just as much right to debate something that's in it, or demand that something be in it, or demand that something be taken out. You know, that's not a conversation for, you know, just some bigwigs or some rich people or some smart people. That's a conversation for everyone.
Right.
You know, in the Bahamas, everyone knows that they have a right to discuss Junkanoo. Right? Every person in this country knows that they have a right to have an opinion about Junkanoo.
Right.
I want every person in this country to feel the same way about the Constitution.
Yeah, that's a big point. And for those who don't know, Junkanoo is an incredible festival that happens twice a year on Boxing Day and New Year's. Well, I guess, New Year's Day. So it's just exciting to think about, and it's a really big deal. So if people are talking about the People's Constitution like Junkanoo, we are going to make major history here with that. So, and I hope that is the case. I mean, it should be ingrained into culture just as much as that heritage is, and I think it really can be, because it speaks to, as it says, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and what it has to offer. So I guess in thinking about, for yourself and for anyone else who's looking for that encouragement of how do I stick to it, what's one big piece of advice that you could share that kept you going? I mean, besides just the internal motivator, what keeps you wanting to move forward in writing and advocating for others to see, you know, that access happen, or that intellectual access open up doors to whatever opportunities that might be out there? What could you give someone to say, you know what, you can do it too?
I don't know. I think what it is with any goal that you're trying to achieve, whether it's losing 5 pounds or world peace, I really think that the key is small steps, right? You know, the human brain likes to see progress. Right. So I think just baby steps and giving yourself just little goals that you can meet in the meantime. Right. So with this, it would be either, you know, would do 2 pages tonight, right, or I would work on it for an hour, whatever I could do, whatever my schedule allows. So I really think that once you realize that, you know, you have to do it, right? It's just, you have to do it,
Give yourself an ultimatum, basically.
Exactly. Once you realize that, you know, and I think you have to get rid of the fear. Fear is probably 90% of the challenge, right? Because it's always that, oh, I want to do this great thing, but what if I fail? What if it's stupid? What if no one likes it? Yeah.
That's a real thing, so every single time.
As I'm doing this, I'm like, no one's going to read this, right? No one's interested in the Constitution. But I think what's a good exercise is just kind of thinking of what's the worst thing that can happen if you actually achieved your goal, and figuring out if you can deal with it. You know, is the worst thing a couple people laughing at you? Okay, well, you'll probably get past that, and that's the worst thing that happens to you. And I think that little goals are the best, because once you get that rush from accomplishing the little goal, then you want more of it. It becomes addictive. Right. So if each time you reach a baby step, if you give yourself a reward, then you want to do more, and that goes for, again, small New Year's resolutions to huge social changes. Right. I think that sometimes people who fight for social change in any realm, they don't like to celebrate the small victories, either because we think they're too small, or we don't want to take time to, pat ourselves on the back.
Right.
All of those things. But those little rewards are important because it keeps you motivated.
Right.
And it keeps you, working toward the next step.
Right. I mean, those are wise words to live by in any context, whether it be a writing project or anything else. Right. So I am noting this. You should definitely put this on rewind because this is going to help you set yourself up for the year in anything that you're doing. And I guess just to kind of close out, any big next step projects that you have for yourself? I mean, this is a huge accomplishment, but anything that you have kind of rolling around in the works as well as your next goal?
I'm actually working on a fiction short story.
Wow, of course.
My goal was to have it done by the end of 2017. So I'm going to get right to it.
There you go. Small goals for yourself, right? Excellent.
Exactly.
Well, we'll be staying tuned for that one as well. Again, if you have not picked up this copy by Keisha Lynne Ellis, The People's Constitution, the layman's interpretation of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, whether you are from the Bahamas, whether you live in the country or out of the country, whether you just want to learn more in terms of just understanding goals and moving forward as a society or even individually and understanding your rights, definitely pick this up for a motivator and inspiration in anything that you need to do. Definitely get a copy of this. They are in the local stores and hoping we can sell them online as well at some point too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stay tuned for that. Everyone who's living abroad, get this copy. It will help you stay connected. But we are just, again, so honored that you were able to join us today. Thank you for being a part of our year-end goal of being able to just learn more about this book, share this time, and just to hear a little bit about what you have going on in your life and just your wise words. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was an honor and a privilege. So hopefully we get a chance to read that fiction again soon too. So thank you all. That's all the time that we have. Again, this is Antoinette Montalvo on another episode of Women In for Montalvo International. Again, got a chance to interview Keisha Lynne Ellis, great author, advocate, mother, wife, all-around superwoman. Definitely check out this interview over and over and over again. You are definitely going to be impacted by it. And we look forward to seeing you in 2018. Make those small steps, make those goals, and see your vision soar. Thanks so much and have a great year.